Okay, right, we're doing the Beese traders question now from page 73 of the Bible. It's got a lot more information in it, but remember, with accruals and prepayments, there is still only 4 things we really need to know. One is, we're trying to identify our BAL CDs, we're trying to identify our BAL BDs, we're trying to identify the amount that we have either paid or received into the bank account, and then we'll work out our profit and loss from it. So your first task with the Beese traders question is to go through and actually try and label some of this stuff even before you do the question. And you must read it carefully, word for word. Alright? BAL BD means the start of the year. So you need to know when the year starts. BAL CD, end of the year. When does the year end? And did the amount go through our bank account? So your first task is to go through and label what these items are first. I'll give you a couple of minutes. Okay, I'm going to go through the question now, and I'm going to try and identify some key bits of information, and I hope you did as well, alright? Looking for the key bits that we talked about up there, BAL CD, BD, and bank. So here we go, on the 1st of January 2006, so straight away I'm thinking that that's the start of the year. Okay, I might be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that's the start of the year. Beese Traders had the following entries in its ledger account. Okay, so look at that, that is the start of the year. So guess what? All of these items you should be looking at thinking, hey presto, I've just found all of my balances brought down. There they are there, alright? I've got insurance, which was owing last year. I've got commission receivable that was owing to us last year. And I've got, provision for doubtful debts. Okay, cool. So, provision for doubtful debts doesn't normally come in an accruals and prepayments question, but we'll do it anyway, alright? This is going to be a good chance for us to explore some other learning. We've got the following information available for the year ended 31st of December. So what we've got now is items available for the end of the year. Sweet, so we're looking for BAL CDs probably. Okay, during the year, insurance was paid as follow. I have got insurance paid on this date and on this date for $1,900 and for $2,400. Those 2 items there I have paid. Therefore, to pay insurance to the insurance company, I would have paid it through the bank account. I've just found my bank items. Then it tells me this funny little bit of information at the bottom. The payment on the 15th of October, that £2,400 there, related to the period 1st of October to the 31st of March. Interesting. Okay, what does that mean? Well, this payment here, nearly at the end of the year for $2,400, actually some of it falls into next year, because remember, the end of the year is the 31st of December. So if I drew it on a little bit of a timeline, what I could do was kind of go, right, the end of the year is the 31st of December, and actually some of the payment that I make in November is actually relating to next year. So what we've identified is that we've made a prepayment. But how much is the prepayment? Well, that's the trick. And actually we'll have a look at that in a moment. Okay, so I'm still wanting to try and find some easy marks for myself because in the exam I'm under pressure. Here we go. let's have a look at part 2 here. It says commission receivable during the year. Okay, commission receivable, that's a revenue, so I've got some money coming in. I would have received this money and I would have put it in the bank. Woohoo! So I found all of my bank amounts received for commission as well. Okay, so I'll zoom out again. And then it says here underneath the commission information that on the 31st of December, £500 was owing in commission to us. We are owed commission at the 31st of December. When was the 31st of December? It's the end of the year. Woohoo! I've just found my Bell CD for commission. And it's an accrual because it tells me it is owing. Okay, and then what we've got is our provision for doubtful debts. It's got some information here. It says the trade debtors balance at the 31st of December. Debtors, people that owe me money, at the end of the year was 38,000. Cool, so I know what my debtors are. And then it says the provision for doubtful debts is to be provided for a specific debt of 500 and then 2% of remaining debtors. Okay, so at the moment I'm thinking, well, that's a lot of information there. But if you remember back to your profit and loss, you've got to work out your provision for doubtful debts. And you're like, oh, okay, I can do that. So we're going to come and have a look at that, what it looks like in a T account in a moment. Okay, so lots of information in this question. Let's have a look at what they've asked me to do. Prepare the following ledger accounts, including, in each case, the transfer to the profit and loss. So I'm going to do my T accounts. Cool, got that in my head. And I want to try and figure out my P&L for the year. Ended 31st of December. And I'm going to look for some Bell CDs. Dates are not required. Okay, cool, so I don't have to put any dates in. Your first task is to draw up these 3 T accounts for me. Remember, what is the plus side for each one? And make sure you leave yourself plenty of room when you draw these T accounts up. Okay, do that now. Okay, so hopefully you've drawn up your T accounts now for the BC Traders question. We've got our insurance account there, and I've put the plus side on the debit side because we know it's an expense, so that's where it's going to go. I've got my commission receivable here. I've put the plus side on the credit side because, again, remember, it's a revenue, so the plus side is over here. And did you get the plus side right for your provision for doubtful debts? Remember, it's a credit. It's a credit because guess what it does to your debtors? It takes them down. We know our debtors are a debit balance, so to get your debtors to come down, you have to do it with a credit, and our doubtful debts are a credit balance right there. Doubtful debts, the people that may not pay us. Okay, right, so again, we're under pressure in the exam. The best bet we've got is to go through and have a look at the easiest marks to get. So on your insurance account, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to look for my bank figures. What were the items that we were going to put into our insurance account that we paid in insurance during the year? So I go to the question and I can see that on the 26th of February I paid £1,900 in insurance. So I'm going to write it in, there it is there. But remember, to get the full mark I need to label it. So I'm going to call it bank, okay, just like that. Now, that's not going to be enough to get me all of the marks because there was another bank item paid on the 15th of October. So I'm going to put £2,400 right there because that's what I paid. I can't change it, it's got to go in as £2,400, and I would have paid my insurance through the bank account just like that. Okay, now, what are we looking for now? Well, we're looking for a BAL CD or a BAL BD if there are any. Alright, so let's go back to the question. I'm going to have a look for my insurance. There it is there. There's my BAL BDs at the very top of the question. Insurance was owing last year. So it was an accrual last year. It was a plus last year. So this year it's got to be a minus. Let me do that again. Last year it was an accrual. It was a plus last year. So therefore when I bring it down to this year, it's got to go on the minus side of my T account. So I'm going to get that marked by putting a BAL CD right there. A BAL BD. Look at me, I'm an idiot. A BAL BD because it was the beginning of the year for £500. Just like that. Alright? BAL BD for insurance for £500. Now I've only got to fix up my BAL CD, then I'll do my P&L. But in this question, we had a funny BAL CD. Alright? This is a major wig out. If you have a look at it, this was that item that we had paid on the 15th of October there, that $2,400, where some of it was spread into next year. Right? Some of it was spread into next year. The best bet, I find, is that when you do it on a timeline like this, if I just draw a timeline of a full year, there it is there, we know that the end of the year was the 31st of December, and on October, there, I paid an amount of £2,400 for insurance. Now, the question told me that this insurance figure related to the period October the 1st through to March. Okay, now, this is the bit where you have to figure out how many months relate to next year. So how many months between the 1st of October and the 31st of December? Remember, use the finger method if you have to. Okay, I'm a bit of a retard, so I had to do it when I was your age. You've got October, you've got November, and you've got December. See that? That's 3 months. 3 months fits into this period here. And how many months fit over here? Well, from January to March, I know that that's another 3 months. Okay, so we've got a 6-month period here. How much of this is a prepayment? How much of that $2,400 relates to next year? I can look at this and say that half of it relates to next year. So you've just found out your BAL CD. Your BAL CD is £1,200. That's the amount of the prepayment. That's the amount that relates to next year. That's the amount that I need to take out of my T account because it's a prepayment. So, if I go back to my ledger account for insurance, it's a prepayment. So prepayment always means down. So I'm going to put it on the minus side for £1,200. And I'm going to call it a BAL CD. Just like that. Now in the exam, you'll be wigging out a bit because you've got your BAL CD and your BAL BD on the same side. That's absolutely fine. It can happen like that. So don't worry about it. Okay? Don't freak out. So what I want you guys to do now is just simply to work out the profit and loss figure for me. Okay. Okay, so there's your insurance account. It should be balanced up like that. Remember, my debit side was bigger. It should always be bigger because it's an expense. So I've made the balance 4,300. I put the balance here, and then I just simply worked out the difference. What did I have to put in there to add it to 4,300? Well, it's my profit and loss item. Now, this exam question doesn't actually ask you to do a balance sheet extract or a profit and loss extract. But in my head, where do you think that Bell CD goes? Is it a current asset? Is it a current liability? I can tell you it's prepaid insurance. Is it a current asset or is it a current liability? Well, if we had to do a balance sheet extract, that is a current asset because it's a prepaid insurance. It's a good thing. We can use it next year. Okay, but I'm not asked to do that in this question, but it's a good learning point. Okay, let's have a look now at commission received. There's my T account. I've left plenty of lines to do it. And I know that the plus side is the right-hand side. Alright, so remember, what are the items we're looking for? Bell BD, Bell CD, bank, and then you can work out your profit and loss. I'd like you to have a go at it now. Okay, so we've got commission receivable. I hope you've had a go at it. I'm going to do it now. And the key is just have a look at what you were thinking when you were doing it. If you didn't do it the same way as I did it, then just think, what was the reasons why? Potentially it could have been you didn't ask yourself the right type of question. Or maybe you didn't follow the rule that I talked about. Accrual means up, prepayment means down. Okay, so let's have a look. Commission received during the year was £300, £100 and £2,800. So I'm going to put those on the right hand side. Did you put them on the right hand side? Well, you should have, because they were the amounts that we received in commission during the year. Now remember, to get the full marks I've got to label them properly, and if I'd received money, I'd received commission, I would have put that money straight into the business's bank account, just like that. Okay, there we go, and hopefully we'll get 2 marks for that, for doing those correctly. Okay, now what we're going to do is try and find our Bell CD or Bell BD now. So if you have a look back in the question, okay, for commission, where is it? There it is there. It says at the end of the year, the 31st of December, we've got a Bell CD owing in commission of 500. We are owed commission. Beese traders, that's who we are, that's who we're doing these financial statements for. We are owed £500. So we're owed money, accruals, that's an accrual. So I'm going to put it on the plus side of my ledger account. So I'm going to zip back to my ledger account and I'm going to put a Bell CD right here for £500, just like that. Okay. Now remember, your Bell CD, it's the amount we're going to receive. If we're doing a balance sheet extract, that Bell CD is also a current asset. Okay, so you should always think, what else could I possibly use it for? Okay, so right, let's go back and have a look at our Bell BD. All right. Our Bell BD at the start of the year said commission receivable on the 1st of January. Oh, we had £400 owing to us last year. So this is when you have to think carefully. It was owed to me last year. It would have been an accrual last year. I would have put it on the plus side last year. Therefore, when I bring it down to start this year, it would need to be on the minus side. So do that again. It was an accrual last year. It would have been on the plus side of my ledger account, so it needs to be on the minus side this year. So if I go back to my ledger account for commission, it needs to be on the minus side, the debit side for commission because it's a revenue, and I'm going to put it in, and the value was £400, and I'm going to call that a Bell BD, because remember, it's amount from last year. Okay, again, go through the job of putting in your profit and loss for the year, and also carrying down your Bell CD as well. so there's your commission received account there. Okay, I've worked out that the revenue adds to 3,700 on the credit side. I've then made this side try to balance to that, and the difference, the figure that I was missing, is 3,700 minus the 400, gives me a profit and loss in the profit and loss account as an other income of 3,300. Okay, so that account is done. Alright, so let's now have a look at something called a provision for doubtful debt. Your provision for doubtful debts is a really cool T account. Alright, it represents the debtors that may not pay us. Alright, it's really important that you remember that. And actually, this account is pretty cool because it remains the same all the time. You'll always be looking for a BAL BD on the credit side. What was my balance for my provision for doubtful debts at the start of the year? And what was the balance to carry down on the credit side? On the debit side. So now I've got to figure out where these two figures are in my information in the exam question. Now, if I go back to the exam question, I can see at the very top where my BAL BDs were here that they've given me a provision for doubtful debts balance at the start of January of 1,400. Brilliant. I know that my provision for doubtful debts should be on the credit side at the start of the year. So if I go back to my provision for doubtful debts, I'm going to put the balance brought down of £1,400 on the credit side. Now remember, in Unit 1, when you do a profit and loss, you're really looking to see whether your provision for doubtful debts goes up or down. If it goes up, it's an expense, and if it comes down, it's another income. So in this question, we want to find out the magic of the BAL CD. How much is my new provision for doubtful debts at the end of the year? Well, we know that when we work out our provision for doubtful debts, we need to know what our debtors were, and we need to multiply it by the percentage that they gave us in the exam question. Okay, so let's go back to the exam question. Let's have a real close look at the information they gave us for our provision for doubtful debts. If you have a look here, it's given me the trade debtors, or the debtors balance, the people that owe me money, at the end of the year was £38,700. Okay, sweet. And we are making a new provision for doubtful debts that is going to be made at 2% of my remaining debtors, plus this little £500 specific debt. Now remember, when we did it, a specific debt was a person that we'd identified as extremely doubtful. We know that they've probably run into money problems. Their debt is not bad yet, but it's most likely going to be. So we create a specific debt for them by themselves. So let's do it again. We're trying to create our new provision for doubtful debts. So what we do is we take the 38,700, we're going to minus off the 500 because he's entirely doubtful on his own, and I'm going to find out 2% of that. Now, I'll do that on the calculator. So I've got 38,700. I'm going to minus off the 500 specific debt, and I get an answer of 38,200. Then I'm going to times it by 0.02, alright, because that's the percent that I need, and I get 764. Now, the key question is, don't stop there. That is not your new provision for doubtful debts. That is part way there. Because guess what? See this £500, this dodgy guy all by himself, I need to add that 500 onto him as well. And this here is going to form my new BAL CD for my provision for doubtful debts. So if I add 500 to that, I'm going to get £1,264 as my new provision for doubtful debts at the end of the year. Now I said end of the year there, so straight away you should be thinking, oh wicked, there is my new BAL CD. Straight away. Okay, so let's go back to our T account. Alright, got paper everywhere here. BAL CD, we've just worked it out. It was 1,264. Okay, so there you go. There will be at least 3 marks possibly for your provision for doubtful debts account, but it's not finished yet. I've got one more figure I need to figure out here, and it's what happened to the difference between the BAL BD and the BAL CD. At the start of the year, my doubtful debts, my people that may not pay me, that's £1,400. At the end of the year, the provision had decreased. When your provision for doubtful debts decreases, it makes the difference and other income. Alright, now what you're going to have to do is go, right, well what's the difference? So we know that the difference is 136. Now really the difference needs to go on this side to make the account balance. Okay, so we know that both sides need to be equal to 1400, just like this. And actually that figure there is what the account has gone down by. Look at that. The account's gone from 1400 down to 1264, and hey presto, I've got my profit and loss of 136. But you must remember they're trying to trick you in this question. It is not an expense, it is a revenue. It is an other income. Your provision has decreased during the year. Remember, the P&L can swap sides too. It can go to this side, it can become a credit entry over here. That would be when your provision increased. Alright, and that would make it an expense if you had to do an extract. Okay, so I'd like you to work your way through the Bible now, doing as many of these accounts as you can for accruals and prepayments, and also trying to work out your provision for doubtful debts wherever you can.